All right, everybody. It's a Monday, April 4th, 2022. I want to say a deep, heartfelt thank you to each and every one of you for joining me here today. I am, of course, Big Cheds. You can find me on Twitter at Big Cheds. This is part of the long-form interview series. It's something I started in the middle of last year, and the goal is to bring on some of the brightest minds, really interesting people in the crypto space. And I like to have kind of a candid, open, and honest conversation with them. And that's what this is. This is the next installment. Today we have our guest, Mr. Peter McCormack. He's the host of the What Bitcoin Did podcast, which I guess is the #1 Bitcoin podcast in the world. He has some amazing guests. I look forward to talking to him about that. And what I think is really cool is Peter's not a trader, and most of the people that I've had on before are traders. I think of him as a journalist, and it'll be fun to kind of turn the tables. I'll be asking him the questions, and because normally he's the one asking everyone else the questions. So I think that will be really fun. I'm going to check in with the chat room and say hello to everyone. This is a worldwide phenomenon. And I love that I can really just talk to you folks whenever. Hello from Philippines. Hello from Lithuania. Big Cheds, what's up, folks? While we're getting settled in here, please do let me know where you are in the world. I really like to hear that. I think it's a lot of fun just to touch base with everybody. I'll remind you, I'm on Twitter. I'm at Big Cheds. Find me there. On my YouTube, Cheds Trading. Check out the long form interview series. This is the latest installment. I've had a really great series of guests leading up to this. I would just encourage you to check that out, and hopefully you do enjoy those. I am, of course, the author of Trading Wisdom, 50 Lessons Every Trader Should Know. It's available now on Amazon. Trading Wisdom, Kindle, audiobook, hardcover, and paperback. And what I like to say, if you cannot afford the book, don't worry about it. I've got your back. I have the book, the whole book for you eventually will be for you for free on my YouTube channel. Go to the playlist, Trading Wisdom. I have 13 of the 50 lessons. Eventually, I will get all 50 lessons. I try to do them every 4 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks as well. So please do check that out. And of course, if you're interested in learning how to trade, you're really serious about it, check out Bitcoin Live. I'm a founding analyst. I've been doing market updates for almost 4 years. I'm one of a great team of really strong contributors. I really encourage you to check that out if you are interested in learning how to trade. So I'll just do a few minutes here on Bitcoin while we wait for our guest to arrive. Mr. Peter should be here shortly. So what's going on with Bitcoin? We're at a really critical spot here on the chart. We topped off last November. We had a series of kind of mean reversion rallies and rejections at moving averages. We eventually put in that kind of flash low on January 24th. And then we were rejected kind of at the underside of where we tried to bounce before. And, essentially over the last 80 days, we essentially had another 80-day rectangle, kind of like we had back in the summer of 2021. And while we were doing that, we formed another low. Now we have our higher low, the higher low structure with the well-defined horizontal range, and we broke out, right? We broke out, and then we got rejected, right? We got rejected right at the MA 200, which is where you would expect to reject initially, right? Anytime you have this much time and distance, between the price and that long-term moving average, you're usually going to reject on that first attempt. So we put in that shooting star, and then the tweezer top here at the MA 200. We came back, we did the throwback. And we've been throwing back and retesting kind of that breakout level. BTC's at a really interesting spot. What I would say is you definitely do not want to see Bitcoin back below 45K. Some people have a little lower level, 44K, but really for me, if we get back below 45K, that would be essentially a failed breakout, in my opinion, right? And when you always want to pay attention to when you have a well-established level, and that level gets well-established by multiple attempts with what's called time interval in between those attempts, where you essentially have a peak and a trough or a high and a low. You have that time interval in between the attempts. And then when you break out, what you want to see is this level respected. Now that it's been so well established, You don't want to see it come back and come back below. That would be a failed breakout, and that would become a very powerful signal in the other direction. And more or less, that is what Bitcoin is in danger of doing right now. I think if we get back below 45K, for me, that would definitely be a risk off type of thing. I think we would wait and see if it tested lower support levels. And if it did that, we'd wait and see how those, the support tests went. In the meantime, if you're looking to go long, I think you just want to wait until we get back up above that 48K level. And that would confirm really the momentum is continuing from the breakout. And, in that case, we're heading back towards 52K, 53K, which is a significant level. It was the lower high from September, and it's where the price initially stalled here at the EMA 34, back in December. Probably pause at 52K, find support at the MA 200, and push on ultimately to the target of the triangle, which would be around 58K. Let's check in here with the chat room. We'll see how everybody's doing. Hello, everybody. You're the GOAT. I appreciate that. I'm just a guy trying to have fun. You finished your first read today. That's awesome. I hope you enjoyed the book. The feedback on the book's been incredible, and I definitely appreciate that. Hello from Tbilisi, the Republic of Georgia. I think that's really cool. Hello from Portugal. Happy to see you once again. My plants are doing great. Thank you for asking. I have a greenhouse. I started things a little bit earlier this year. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them strong. Last year I think I started them a little bit late and I didn't have quite the yield I wanted to. My wife was making fun of me for all the effort I put into the garden. We didn't have quite as big a yield as we might have. Our guest Peter will be here shortly. So we'll continue on here for just a moment while we wait for our guest. So really, we're looking at a situation where Bitcoin has a well-established level, right around that 46K, 45 to 46K level where it's been rejecting, and we broke out, right? So we want to see that breakout respected. There's other things going on. There's some clues in the price action, and one of them is what Ethereum is doing, right? What Ethereum is doing and what kind of the rest of the altcoin market is doing. And by the way, if you want to see a little bit more detail on this TA, I did do recently did like a full market update, and I did that 2 days ago on April the 2nd. So go ahead and check that out. That was about 40 minutes of TA. But one of the things we're looking at here is we're looking at the fact that Ethereum's been incredibly strong. And this, ETH BTC, what does that mean? That simply put is just Ethereum versus Bitcoin in terms of which one, which is strongest, right? And generally speaking, when this chart is rising, when Ethereum is outperforming Bitcoin, it's not the right environment for Bitcoin to be making new highs. Normally, Bitcoin will be consolidating kind of at that point, and you're waiting essentially for this chart to roll over. Let me just see here. I'm just checking my Twitter DMs real quick. You're waiting essentially for that chart to roll over and allow Bitcoin to continue up, because when Bitcoin pauses, the money flows roll into Ethereum, and then the money flows roll into altcoins. And we've seen a really nice last couple weeks of altcoins, and that's also can be a warning sign, especially when you see weaker alts like XVG, TRX, XRP, that type of thing running. It makes you a little bit more cautious on Bitcoin. So we have the Ethereum BTC pair itself establishing this key resistance level where the price had been rejected, again, where the price had been rejected on, kind of at the end of March, and then breaking out and recapturing the MA 200. So you see real momentum in this chart and real potential for this chart to kind of continue higher, building support and pushing up to those highs from the end of last year. And so that's going on while BTC is kind of right at this critical juncture. So for me to be a little bit more confident on what Bitcoin's doing here, confident on this breakout, I would want to see a little bit more weakness in this chart. But we're seeing the strength in the ETH BTC chart, which is making me a little bit more cautious, in terms of what's going on with BTC. Let's continue on. Looks like Peter here is showing up in just a moment. I just touched base with him. I appreciate everyone, for your patience. And then we have Ethereum, of course, as well, attempting to close and recapture that MA200. So we're seeing relative strength of Ethereum to Bitcoin, which is making me a little bit cautious as Bitcoin is kind of right at that key level. Let me just do a rundown again on our guest today, Mr. Peter McCormack. We have the What Bitcoin Did podcast. I was looking at that page. It looks like there's a lot of different ways to get that content, a lot of different platforms. Let me see here. Let's just scroll down. I think I saw a link where he's just kind of all over the place. Very easy to get that. Spotify, kind of all that stuff. So I'll let him get into that in just a moment. And of course, he is on YouTube, the What Bitcoin Did podcast. I see my man there in the background, Peter. You see me, brother? All right, let's get him on. Let's get me off. You don't want to hear any more of that boring technical analysis. Peter McCormack.
Hello, man. I'm sorry I'm late.
You're not late, man. You're never late to your own party. You're never late to your own party.
Do you want to know what just happened? It's mental. So it's the Bitcoin conference this week.
Okay.
So we booked a house for it because I'm taking like the team who work behind the show. I'm taking everyone to it, and I'm flying out tomorrow. And we just received this message from the property. We booked it on Airbnb. It says, "Good morning. We're all looking forward to hosting you and your group. It has come to my attention this morning that the current celebrity client extended, and we will need to upgrade you to a more expensive home. This upgrade is, of course, free of charge."
Oh.
No, it's bullshit. It's basically an extra 20, 30 minutes away from where we're staying.
Oh,
so every day, it's like another hour to 2 hours of travel.
Oh, my God.
So I was like dealing with that. I was like, and then I forgot we were meant to be on. So I'm sorry I'm late.
It's tough, man. No, that's okay. I appreciate that. I can tell you that will make a difference. I hate driving. I had a job where I drove around everywhere. And it wasn't until I quit that job that I realized how much I really hate driving. So 20 minutes can make a big difference, man.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't mind it too much, but when you've got it, because we know we'll be going, I've been there before, right? So you have to do the journey there and back twice a day.
Yeah.
And so that's basically, if it's 20 minutes a time, it's nearly an extra 2 hours a day. It's just like, thanks. I thought our booking would be honored.
Right. Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I wanted to ask you about conventions. I wanted to ask you about a bunch of stuff. But I'd love for you to just briefly introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about what you do and your projects, and we can kind of roll from there.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on, Cheds. You and I have got, as long as I've been doing this, you and I have been speaking and talking and chatting away on Twitter. So we've kind of lived this last few years together. I think a lot of people don't realize, like, you build these friendships that aren't very public; they're quite private. But
yeah,
I feel like as long as I've been doing this, I've known you. I host a podcast about Bitcoin. It's called What Bitcoin Did, and I've been doing that for now about 4.5 years, which has just been really great. It's just been a really great learning experience for me, and for multiple reasons. I think maybe some of your listeners will know it. Some of them may know me from Twitter and think I'm a bit of a dick and a bit of a troll. And I also started the process of running a football club as well, which is super interesting. But they're the main thing, outside of being a parent and everything that goes with that. They're the main two things I do, is work on the podcast and the football club.
Yeah, that's exciting. I have in my notes, and it's funny, I never prepare for interviews because I kind of just roll with it, and we talk about like crypto and all the, the price action. But I definitely want to ask you about the football team, and I want to hear about your family and the podcast. But let's start out with that convention, because you had mentioned that a minute ago, and that's kind of right in the top of your mind. What's going on there? You're there with a team. Can you tell us a little bit about what your involvement is and what you're hoping to see? Because I'd never been to one of these things before.
Yeah, so this is probably the largest Bitcoin conference, Bitcoin 2022. I've been to the last two, Bitcoin 2019 and Bitcoin 21. 20 didn't happen, obviously, because of COVID. And it's just a massive celebration of Bitcoin. You have a wide range of speakers coming in to give talks about Bitcoin. I think this year it's expanding beyond just like your traditional Bitcoin speakers to kind of like a wider audience. You've got the likes of Eric Weinstein and Jordan Peterson, who's expressed a slight interest in Bitcoin now being part of the conversation. You've got some sports stars like Odell Beckham Jr., but you've got your traditional Jack Mallers and Saif Dina Moose coming in to talk Bitcoin. And so it's really a celebration of Bitcoin, a chance to talk about things, but also outside of the talks, it's just a chance to hang out, see some of your friends that you haven't seen for a while, meet up with people, and just kind of hang out. My involvement is I'm an on-stage MC, so as I've done for the last couple of years, I'm given a specific slot where I'll introduce the guests on stage and kind of try and keep the crowd energy as high as I possibly can. Yeah, it's a great event.
So do you find that people are welcoming, we're all kind of strangers and maybe we should talk online, but then we show up and it's like, oh, hey, you're in front of me. What's it like meeting people you just talk to online, and are people generally friendly, or are these what is the environment like kind of person to person there?
Yeah, it's super friendly. I don't think I think I've in all the events I've been to in the last 4 years, I've had one negative in-person experience, somebody who took a online fight offline, and it was probably resolved in a matter of like, I don't know, 2 minutes. I mean,
yeah,
my approach to always this is like, none of this shit really matters. And like, if I've ever offended somebody online or they've taken it the wrong way, I'm very British about this. I'll offer to buy them a beer and apologize for anything I've done and say, yep, yeah, sorry if I was a dick. Let's have a beer and like, how you doing? And
yeah,
how's life for you? And I mean, I think Twitter's one place and real life it's a different one. And
yeah,
I think it's quite unusual if it's quite easy to like be online and act all tough and
yeah,
shit talk people. But when you do it I think it's quite weird if you do that in person.
right.
But like, so like I'm not without fault. I've definitely trolled and been a bit of a dick on Twitter. And like, if I have ever upset anyone and they say, "Oh, you pissed me off," I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm sorry about that." And,
There you
let's
go,
have a beer.
folks. There's your mea culpa, folks. For all the people some people are like, "Ah, Peter, you blocked me." I mean, whatever. It's Twitter. It's hard to have a long form conversation in 140 or 280 characters. I saw you made an announcement maybe 3-4 weeks ago on your Twitter where you basically said like, "That's it, I'm out." I can't have nuanced conversations. And so I would assume that had built up for a while. That had been frustrating. You had tried to have nuanced conversations, and you were just like, "Screw it, I'm out." Yeah, is that where you're at now? Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, look, there was a couple of reasons behind that. I think the trigger for it really was just like my own behavior. Some guy tweeted some stuff about Ukraine, Russia, and I replied in a quite snarky way, and then he replied in a snarky way, and then I did again. I was like, oh, do you know what? This is just fucking dumb. I'm being a prick. I was being a prick, and I even said to her, I said, do you know what? This is a real trigger for me just to give up on Twitter, because realistically, like, the conversation I would like to have with him was one on the phone and say, hey, listen, man, like, I disagree with your tweet for this reason. I think you should consider A, B, C. And he could have said, yeah, do you know what? You may be right, maybe you're wrong. And it would have been cool. But because it's Twitter, it just always descends into just being a shitty engagement with each other. And I don't think anything's achieved. And I was just like, well, I'm being a prick. We're not achieving anything. And so I was like, do you know what? This is just a waste of time. What am I doing? So, I was like, fuck it. Treat it like an airport. I announced my departure. And then there are other things like, the bigger your profile is, the more crap you get, thrown at you, and sometimes deserved. But after 4 years of being like told you're fat, you're a beta, glad your mum's dead, I hope you get cancer, like something you'll probably, as much as anyone would appreciate, that's just a bit shit. You're crap at your job. You're this, you're that. Like, after 4 years, when it starts as a trickle and then it becomes like thousands of messages all the time, and like, I just think, I just don't need to read this.
right.
So I just made a decision. I'm going to get off Twitter, delete it off my phone, and just have a break from it. And yeah, it's been useful. It stopped me being a dick, and it stopped me having to deal with dicks. So I think ultimately it was the right choice.
I think it's incredibly difficult to maintain your mental health. We do what we do. Sometimes we want adoration. We want, hey, I love your content, but you have to take the good with the bad. And, I honestly think to maintain your mental health, I don't think you can read notifications, so,
No.
We got to find out.
Yeah. I started to get out of that as well. So like like the YouTube, because the YouTube comments, we have to moderate them because there's so much spam.
Right.
We can't post moderate them because it just ruins the feed. So every hour or so, someone just goes in and like approves and rejects all the spam. We don't censor anything. Literally, we allow everything through, whether it's a criticism of me, even if they just call me a fat cuck or whatever, like we let it all through. But what we don't allow is like spam of join our WhatsApp group, join this Discord server. And we don't allow any, like Richard Hart's morons, they all kind of go in and we just remove all their shit. Because it's a Bitcoin channel, it's not productive. Like we even allow some of the Cardano stuff through, because if somebody is a Cardano fan and they're trying to make a constructive argument, we allow that through so someone can have a response to that. But we do just block all the Richard Hart nonsense just because it's like irrelevant.
I think there's always you have to do some blocking, but you want to allow for the conversation and you don't want to really be censoring too much. So I think you have to kind of find that fine line. I want to ask you, go ahead.
It's the difference between what is spam and what is content. We allow all content through, but we consider anything which is like someone just abusing the channel to promote a service, a WhatsApp group, or to shill hexes. We just consider those all the same. They're all spam, so we just get rid of them.
I want to ask you about something on the convention that popped up, and then I'll kind of shift back to I want to go back to the origins of kind of how we got here. You mentioned like Jordan Peterson and these other folks. Do you feel like crypto is being pigeonholed a certain way in the media? You know, I hear that like, oh, it's all alt-right, but I have a lot of friends alt-left or whatever. Like, I think it's unfair, but I want to know what you think about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that certainly happens. Unfortunately, there's like this spectrum on the right, but there is this certain group within the media who use right-leaning opinions as they use almost the right as a pejorative term, where really it's just a different spectrum of thinking. If you read The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt, he talks about why some people fall on the left, why some people fall on the right, and it's just a different set of values people have. But you know, all values are important to hear. It doesn't matter whether somebody's on the left, the right, whether they're a moderate, whether they're a libertarian, an anarcho-capitalist, even a communist. Like, every opinion should be heard and every opinion should be debated so people can get like a full understanding of like the different perspectives that people bring to a conversation. Just blocking out different views is pointless. But you tend to find a lot of the media is moderate or left leaning, and anything that's right tends to be something like GB News or Fox News, and it's considered like an echo chamber. And there's certainly been, especially on the Bitcoin side, there's certainly been attempts to pigeonhole Bitcoin as this kind of like alt-right technology. We're trying, what we try and do with the show, we're trying to fight that by having as like broad a range of guests on our show as possible. So if you go through the previous guest list, you will see people. Ben Ark was on, we had Margot Paez. These are people who are certainly on the left, and we're trying to bring in that broad range of conversations because Bitcoin originally was a cypherpunk tool, and then it was nerds, and then it was libertarians. But in its breaking out, which it certainly is doing now, it's going to break out to a wider group of people who exist on the left and the right. It's going to break out to them quicker than it is going to create new libertarians. And so I think it's really important that Bitcoin is apolitical, and that every conversation, every opinion is welcome to the table, so we can try and find a way to, as a society, we coordinate ourselves. So I agree with you. I certainly think it is being pigeonholed, but I think it's important any content creator helps try and avoid that pigeonholing by having as broad a range of conversations as they can.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And I think you realized the responsibility you have. I mean, you've built up a huge audience, and I think you probably don't just want people from one side. I think that'd be boring, more than anything. I'd love to ask you about your guests. You mentioned a few. What are some of the guests that have really stuck out to you? You've been doing this now. I think I saw 460 episodes. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah. There's a lot. I mean, and there's a lot in terms of like what I got from the interview, but also in terms of what it meant for the show. A very early one, I think it was like episode 10, was the interview I did with Ross Ulbricht's mum, Lynn Ulbricht.
Oh yeah.
And what was really important about that is, I did a lot of preparation for that interview. It was only my 10th, right? I was still green with regards to doing interviews, and this is a real story. This is someone's son who is essentially being condemned to die in jail. He's got a double life sentence plus 40 years without parole. So like, unless he gets a presidential pardon, he'll be in jail for the rest of his life. And that not only has an impact on him, but has an impact on his family. And after that interview, I was like, okay, these interviews are important. Whilst I started this podcast as a hobby, and I was like, oh, cool, I got Charlie Lee from Litecoin. It's like, hold on, this is a real story. There's like important work to do here. And I think that's when I realized, like, even if you're a podcast host, you are in this kind of like weird world where it's a blend of entertainment and journalism.
Yeah.
You are trying to entertain the listener, but at the same time,
right.
There's certain journalistic standards you have to try and attempt to follow. And so with that, I was like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously. And sometimes I haven't. But that really stood out. Obviously, the interview with President I've done two now with the president of El Salvador. The second one stood out more than the first one. And the first one, I was like super nervous. It's the most nervous I've ever been because it was in the presidential palace. There were like 25 people in the room, and I knew like a lot of people were watching it. But the second one felt more important because the first one, if anything, was kind of a softball interview. It was kind of like, tell us why you're doing Bitcoin, yada yada. But there's been a lot of questions with regards to his administration and the decisions they've made, and there was no way the second interview could be softball. I had to ask tougher questions, and for whatever reason, I was the person who was afforded that opportunity to sit there and ask those questions, and I did. So that will come out soon. And then outside of that, there's been a handful of interviews or guests that have stood out, but I would say that like they are the two main ones because of what they meant at their time and what they meant to me, and the responsibility I felt with doing them.
Interesting. I think it's amazing that you're able to get those guests. And I can see I can imagine you doing that Ross interview and then realizing like there's some serious stuff going on here. We're not just talking about, personal wealth for some people. It's about, you don't have any wealth if you can't control your body, if you're locked up in a cage. What's your interviews? How do you prepare for these interviews? I think you said you were a little bit green initially. What are some of the things you're doing now that you didn't do then? I'd like to hear about that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's changed a lot. Like first and foremost, I consider it a job.
Yeah.
And like with any job, I want to do the best I can. There is no part of me that just turns up and does an interview and leaves. I study other interviewers, whether it's looking at Rogan, Tim Ferriss, Larry King. I watch other interviewers and see what they do. Well, it's a bit like if you're a basketball player, you might look at Michael Jordan and say, what does Michael Jordan do? Or if you're a footballer, you might look at Lionel Messi and look what he does. Like I just look at other interviewers and think, what do they do that's good? What have I learned from them? And very, very early on, like the first 6 months, I would say, to a year of doing the show, I used to prepare diligently for every interview. I had a lot of questions and a lot of topics. And then what I decided to do, I decided to go a whole year without having anything in front of me because I wanted to kind of like train myself to be able to try and hold a conversation without being stuck on a sheet. Yeah. So for about a year, I then didn't use anything. I used to turn up and just do the interview. And that was a challenge. It got easier over time because you start to learn about how to maintain a conversation, but also be prepared to move topics.
Yeah.
More recently now, look, there's a whole team we work on the show, and we try and do all interviews in person. I've got my brother works on the podcast now. He's a full-time researcher, so he does the first layer of research for a show. And what he does is he does the guest research, topic research, and then what happens is we all jump on a call and we talk through what we want to get out of the interview, what we think the guests want to get out of the interview. And then what we do is about an hour before each interview, just so it's fresh, we go through all the notes, we discuss the notes and we turn them into topics. And then most of the time I've got a sheet in front of me just with topics. And that allows me to kind of like navigate through them. What we want to avoid as best possible is being an echo chamber podcast where we just cheerlead Bitcoin and agree with everything the guest says. So if the guest is more right-leaning, I will probably take more of a left position. Yeah. And if the guest is left-leaning, I'll take more of a right position and try and challenge them on their ideas. But at the same time, like be totally transparent about kind of my point of view and where I'm coming from. And We're by no means like a finished product. Like I will listen to a Rogan show and just think, fucking hell, he's brilliant at this. Like, how does he do 3 hours just off the bat without any notes? But
Yeah.
we're always just trying to learn and improve. And, we get a bunch of emails in and we take feedback very seriously. If someone thinks we've done a bad job, we want to know why. Like, there was a lot of criticism of the Scott Horton show.
Okay.
Whilst a bunch of people agree with him, others were saying you didn't challenge him, you let him just speak, yada yada. And I took that feedback seriously, and it's like, okay, if I was to interview him again, and like, how would I do it? And when we were on location recording, there was a team of three: Danny, my producer, and my camera guy Jeremy, and we do an autopsy of every show. It's like, what did we get out of this? What worked? What didn't work? Like, one of the interesting things, for example, Cheds, is the things you don't realize are going to happen, but happen. Like, it's kind of a big production now. So when we book a venue, we go there, we set all the camera equipment up. But when you bring a guest into the room, they come into the room with lights, 4 cameras, like a sound deck, like it's a big production, and people get nervous. And we used to just go straight into the interview with them, and we noticed people getting nervous, and like the first 5 to 10 minutes were shit. So what we do now is we get them sat down, we get a drink, and we just hang out for 5 to 10 minutes. We'll just hang out and talk, and once they've like relaxed, then we start the interview. So there's things like that you're always learning about, and just trying and improve the show so you give the guest the best experience possible, and the listener gets the best show possible.
How do you keep yourself motivated? I mean, you talk about Joe doing 3 hours. I don't know if your interviews ever go that long. How are you avoiding burnout, and how are you really maintaining your motivation? Because we are talking about 500 episodes at this point.
All good questions. So we've had a couple go up to 3 hours, but we try and avoid that. We don't really want to go over 2 hours. I think the sweet spot's about 90 minutes. And the reason we don't want to go to 3 hours is people have a limited amount of time. And so if we do a 3 hour show, they could have listened to 2 90-minute shows in that time, right? So we don't want to just use time unnecessarily. We think 90 minutes is a sweet spot, but we will go longer if possible. I mean, burnout, that's an interesting question. Like, I feel really lucky, mate. Honestly, I feel like I've got the best job in the world. I feel really fortunate, and I never want to complain about it, because I've done some shit jobs, mate. Like, I've hammered handles on umbrellas. I've walked to a factory where it's a 45-minute walk there, 45-minute walk back, and all day I'm a assistant to a carpenter, and it's hard work. I've had a situation where I've worked 3 jobs in a single day. Like, I've been through that. So there's never a situation where I'm going to complain about this. I'm really fortunate. I've got a great team. We get to go to cool locations and talk to good people. So I've got no complaints. I think the potential burnout is the repetitive nature of the conversations. Like, how many times can you discuss 21 million? How many times can you discuss hold your keys? It gets a bit boring. So what we're trying to do is expand the conversation into governance and macroeconomics and like other topics that feel asymmetric to Bitcoin, but maybe aren't Bitcoin.
Interesting. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I can imagine just talking about the scarcity of it gets boring over time, like you said. So how did you, let's go way back, and I think I know the answer in terms of how you discovered crypto. I think it was to get some medicine for your mom. Is that right?
Well, no, it predates that, actually. It goes back to, I can't remember, I think it was end of 2012 or start of 2013 when somebody told me about the Silk Road.
Okay.
And they were like, yeah, there's this website you can get drugs from. I was like, what? Really? Tell me more. And then they explained it, said you need this Bitcoin, and you buy on local Bitcoins, and then they showed me this the website, and I was like, this is fucking insane. So I bought some Bitcoin, and I became a customer of the Silk Road. And then I was also trading. So I started to trade CFDs of Bitcoin, which I made and lost a lot of money in a very short amount of time, and then just kind of forgot about it. Stopped taking drugs and yada yada. And then Bitcoin crashed from its 1200 down to whatever, and I just forgot about it and just kind of ignored it. And then I started to like see it in the press again, like end of 2016. And then my mum obviously got sick, and you and I have spoken a lot about this because you have a cancer story, and my mum was dying of cancer. So we wanted to treat her with cannabis oil, and my dad was like, "How do you get it?" So I was like, "Well," had to tell him the story of what happened back in 2013. So I Googled where to buy Bitcoin, and Coinbase came up. So we bought a Bitcoin, bought some cannabis oil. Sadly, it was just too late for Mum, and she passed away.
Yeah.
January, I think it's January the 12th, 2017. She passed away. But I still had this like a small amount of Bitcoin left, so I went back onto Coinbase to sell it, and then I saw Ethereum. I was like, "What's this?" I looked it up, and then I was like reading about this blockchain revolution. I was in between jobs. I'd quit my job in the advertising industry, and I had some money left over. And like Ethereum was $9, $9 or £9. I can't remember exactly. So I just dumped a bunch of money into Coinbase and bought a bunch of Bitcoin, a bunch of Ethereum, and then we all know what happened in 2017, and now here we are today.
And the rest is history, as they say.
The rest is history,
what do you
brother.
do in the how did you go from a carpenter's assistant in a factory to the advertising industry, Peter?
Yeah, so when I was 15, I set up a fanzine, like a music magazine, a heavy metal one. And so I used to phone. It was a bit like I kind of got away with it a little bit. So basically, a band called Skunk and Nancy played at a local venue called Esquires. So I went along to them and said, "Can I interview you?" And they said yes. And I made the first issue. And I sent it around to all the record companies and said, "Listen, I've got this fanzine. It was called The Plug. Can I interview the bands?" And so what used to happen is I used to get into all the concerts for free. I get to interview the bands, and I used to get all the CDs sent to me free to review. So it was like it was a bit of a grift as a kid, as a 15-year-old. I got into every concert for free, and I got all my CDs for free. I still made the fanzine, and so I made 4 issues of that, and that was cool over the space of a year. And then I kind of stopped doing it. And when I went to university, I was like, oh, I'm going to do this again. And so I was like, well, I'm not going to do it printed, because that was a nightmare, printing up copies and posting them and standing outside concerts selling them. And the internet was very new then. So I was like, right, I'm going to start a website. So what happened was I tried to get a quote for a website. It was like £5,000, and I didn't have that money. And I was in between. It was like the summer at university in between school years. So I decided to stay where I was in High Wycombe. I got a job at this. It was a place that built stages for events. And so you would go in, and the carpenters would build the stage, and I would be the one like sweeping up the sawdust and making tea and all that shit. Yeah. And then what I did is I went to Waterstones and bought a book about HTML, and I would go back to my house in the evening. I sit there all evening learning to code HTML. And so then I started building websites. And then what happened was I got offered a job. I was in my 3rd year at uni, and I put my name on a freelance board, and this startup, this .com called eCountries.com phoned me, and they said, "Oh, we need freelance HTML programmers. Can you come to London? You start this week, and we're paying £900 a week." So that's what, $1,200-1,300. Bear in mind, I was working in a pub getting paid like £3 an hour. So suddenly be offered £900 a week. I was like, yeah, great. So I pretty much quit uni that day, never went back. I went out and started building websites, and that progressed to me starting my own agency. And we kind of ended up with this agency in London for 8 years, where we were very much focused on web design and social media marketing and all forms of digital marketing.
What were you studying at the university?
I was studying, so I did a music industry management course. So because I did the fanzine, I wanted to work at a record company. I did my work experience I did a work experience at East West Records and Roadrunner Records, and I was like, right, this is what I want to do. So the only course available was the music industry management one, so I did it. It turned out to be like an absolute bag of shit. Like the worst thing to do would be go to the university to study music industry management. The best thing to do would be to go to the music industry and just get a job. So I say, I'll work for you for free. Within 3 years, you're infinitely more employable than someone who's done this stupid course. So I quit that in my 3rd year, and that bit is history now.
So you talked about, let's get to a topic I think you'll be happy to talk about, the football team. When I first saw you talking about it, I thought like he's joking, or this kind of, there's no way this dude, is like doing all this stuff. But I think it's pretty cool. I'd love to hear about what's going on with the football team, the story behind it, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so where I'm from, I'm from Bedford, which is just a little shit town in England, right? 170,000 people, and but we're the size of a town that could support a league team, right? There's the professional leagues in England are the Premier League, Championship, League One, and League Two, and I've always felt that Bedford could at least support a League Two team. There's Premier League teams have got a smaller population in their town than us, but like no one's ever really had a plan to make that happen. Like because you need money to do it. And about 4 years ago, in 2017, 5 years ago, when the market was going crazy and I thought I was rich, we looked into buying Bedford Town. Me and my friend Tom, and it kind of fell apart. And I'm glad it did because we didn't know what we were doing. And then I lost all my money anyway. And then what happened was this year, I was like, I think I can do this, but in a different way. And my idea is that we can create a team that the Bitcoiners can get behind. So, because I was looking at what happened with El Salvador, and I was thinking, nobody knew where fucking El Salvador was a year ago. They certainly didn't know who Nayib Bukele was, and they became the Bitcoin country. And now everyone wants to go to El Salvador, and everyone knows who Nayib Bukele is. And it's a bit like that with MicroStrategy. I was like, no one knew who they were, or Michael Saylor, and now they do. So I was like, well, whoever launches the first Bitcoin football team, that's going to be the team that all the Bitcoiners support. So I was like, right, well, if I get Bedford, they're shit enough to buy them and small enough to make a difference, we can make them the Bitcoin team. And then with that, what we have something that all the big teams have, which is the chance to tap into an international audience. The only way football teams tap into an international audience is by being so big and successful that all the teams youngsters want to support them because they've got the best players, or they sign a player. Like if Norwich signs a player from Peru, suddenly a bunch of people in Peru will support Norwich, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, look, if we just become the Bitcoin team with a Bitcoin standard, we have something all the Bitcoiners will get behind. So I was like, right, that's strategy one. And then strategy two is just be good on the commercials, for which we've been really good on that. And then luckily for me, I've got the platform now. So I've got the people who listen to the podcast, who follow me on Twitter, that I can kind of promote that to. So yeah, really the idea is like, can we on a Bitcoin standard take a team, which is absolute shit at the bottom of the bottom of the English Football League, and take them up into the Football League and beyond. And yeah, so like that is a live project that we're doing right now.
So did you ever play football as a kid?
Yeah, I was terrible. I was terrible. I was so shit. I used to play for Sunday League Div 5 team. I was a striker. I scored goals, but because I've always been a fat bastard, I've been slow. So I was more of a five-a-side player. I can score, right? If I'm in front of goal, I'm going to score. If you ask me to chase a ball, every defender's going to beat me because I was fat and slow.
So you said, so are you seeing that support from the BTC people or the crypto people? You are.
Yeah, it's been really overwhelming actually. It's from like almost every email I receive, someone's like, "Go Bedford." We've sold hundreds of t-shirts and hoodies. We've got sponsors behind. Like everyone is like, "Come on, you've got this." Like the support, honestly, it's really overwhelming. And I do feel like this sense of duty now to do something really great for Bitcoin with this. Like really go out there and deliver. And I work hard on the podcast, Jeds, but the football club is like, I literally wake up and that's the first thing I think about. It's the last thing I think about when I go to bed. Like, how can I nudge this forward today? What are the things I can do just to make that team that bit better? How can we make sure, like, the real shame is we took over the team halfway through the season. It was just too late to make the playoffs.
Okay.
Like our goal record was, our game record since we've taken over, if we had them at the start, we'd have been in the playoffs, no problem. I think we're going to miss out by like 1 or 2 points, which is sad.
Well, that's not bad though. And I think what I can hear from your voice is that you're enthusiastic about it. I think, most people are looking for something to really get behind. And I think it's, you have that. I think that's fantastic.
But the thing is, Cheds, like where I'm from, like I'm proud of it, right? This is where I grew up. This is where my friends are, but it's a deprived area, and most people who are successful have left the town. They've got a job in London because it's a near commute. A lot of the big industry with modernization has gone. We don't have many big industries here. We have a lot of edge of town, like Amazon warehouses, which we know are places that treat people like shit. Like there isn't a lot going for Bedford. Yeah, I love it. Like it's where I grew up, and and I was just like my own personal ego. Like you can't pretend this stuff doesn't exist. My own personal ego would be love to be the guy that brought football, like league football, to Bedford. But at the same time, I just think it'd be such a cool thing for the town to get behind. Like
Yeah.
that thing that, if you watch Sunderland Till I Die on Netflix, you see the people in that town, and all they look forward to is Saturday. What's going to happen with Sunderland? Are we going to win? Like their hopes and dreams. And I just think that'd be such a cool thing to happen for the town.
So is this like an old industrial town where the jobs kind of moved away, or like what?
Kind of a little bit. I mean, it's a commuter town as well, but we did have London Brick, which was the big brickworks. We did have other things like Granada TV, but it just doesn't have like much now. Like I say, it's the only thing that's good for it is halfway between the A1 and the M1, which are the two big motorway spines in the country,
Okay.
and it's got a bypass that connects them. And we're north of London, so people like all of the logistics people, it really suits them to have like a warehouse here for distribution, which are very efficient systems that make a lot of money for people at the top, but they aren't the most inspiring jobs for people locally.
Peter, a question: are there two teams in Bedford? I know one is promoting this year from Tier 8. What does that mean?
Yeah. So there's Bedford Town and Bedford FC. Bedford Town, I did want to buy. They just didn't want to sell. The chairman there, John Taylor, has done a brilliant job. They're top of their division. They're definitely going to go up. Actually, me and him were texting each other earlier. I'd love to have got them. They weren't available, so we've got Bedford FC, which are Tier 10.
Tier 10. So I don't know anything about any of that
That's
stuff.
9 promotions from the Premier League.
Okay. How do you get how would you move up in rankings? Is it that you just dominate, where you are? Do you move up tiers because of performance? What is that process,
Yeah, so depending on the division, it's either like 2, 3, or 4 teams that get promoted. So in our division, it's 1 goes up directly, and then the next 4 go in playoffs. And really, you've got to have a good team, and a good team can run at this level can come from organisation, but also money helps. If you can afford to pay players, you can get better players. But that isn't everything. You've got to have a good manager. You've got to have a good infrastructure. You've got to have a good football ethos. There's like a magic formula, and even if you crack the formula on the day, you still might lose. That's
right.
The nature of sport. I've learned a lot about that in 6 months. Throwing money at the problem doesn't solve it.
Right.
You have to have the right infrastructure. But we believe we know enough now that next season we would definitely make the playoffs. Coming top would be hard, but we think we know what we need to do to make that happen. We've got a great set of players around us now. Hopefully, they'll be with us next season, and we'll give it a good shot. But that's the magic. There's 2 great unknowns with our project. One is the performance on the day, and 2 is what will the price of Bitcoin be, because both of them will impact what we do. But we're trying to run a really solid professional club. We have a management team we put in place to run every aspect of the club, from social to e-commerce. We want to launch an academy. We want to launch a women's team. We want to launch a youth team. So,
wow.
As much as we want to be successful, we also want to bring more football opportunity for kids and young girls in Bedford.
That's going to take a lot of your bandwidth, though. Are you happy to kind of move more into that going forward, or do you plan to kind of keep, what Bitcoin did and the football team kind of parallel tracks? I mean,
one of the fortunate things with the podcast, like doing okay, is it's got good sponsors now, so that's allowed me to build a team. That I think there's 7 people who work on the podcast now, which 6 are full time, and so a lot of that gets handled to me. So when I turn up in a new sprint that we've booked, that all the equipment, everything's set up, and all the interviews are booked, all the guests have been arranged. So I turn up and we literally discuss what's the interview. I do the interview. Once the interview's done, all the material's taken, it's edited, it's mastered, and then it's published, and all the social media's handled. So my role is now it's the direction of the guests we want, because I choose the guests, direction of the interview and conducting the interview. Everything else is done for me. That frees me up a lot to do other things. And then with the football club, again, all these things come down to appointing good people. I've appointed a chief exec, my friend Tom Pattinson, who I've known for 35 years, and he runs the club on a day-to-day basis. So I'm able to kind of float between the two. But I also think they have this kind of symbiotic relationship. And I use the podcast for the football team, and if the football team does well, that'll bring some interest to the football club. So really, it's just a chance about having good people around me that kind of help me do that, which I'm really lucky to have.
Well, that's really what it's all about. It's about the people around you.
Yeah.
You have a daughter, right?
I have a son and a daughter.
Okay. Are they football fans as well, or?
Yeah, they are, and they both come to every game and absolutely love it and are backing it, and yeah, really enjoying it actually.
That's awesome. They think their dad's cool or what?
No, they think I'm a fucking douchebag.
Well, they know you well then, huh?
Do you know what it is? Like,
Yeah.
it's funny because you know you think you're cool. I think I'm a cool dad. Like I've got a podcast. And no, I'm a complete douchebag. I wear stupid clothes. I'm
Right.
embarrassing. Like I
Yeah.
just think when you become a parent, you are no longer cool, whoever you are.
You're sure my daughter keeps telling me that I'm rusty, crusty, and musty. So I think I can relate to that a little bit. I only have a couple more questions, and it's been really fun. Definitely
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
having you here. You still playing poker at all, or?
No, I haven't played poker in about a year. I was playing a lot during the lockdown. There was like a group of us playing. I won like 3 Bitcoin. It was fucking brilliant.
Damn. Okay.
But no, no, I haven't played in a while. I'd like to. It's one of those things. It's like you get into a routine of playing. It was every Thursday, and then that game
Yeah.
stops. So I haven't played in a while, but I do miss it. I do like it, game.
Okay. So that was that Thursday night high stakes game with all like Luke and all those people, and that. So that you don't play anymore.
Yeah, do you know what? It's funny because it was a .1 Bitcoin sit down, and I'm trying to remember like the price of Bitcoin say was around $5,000-6,000. So it was like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a $500-600 sit down.
Yeah.
But Bitcoin got up to like 30,000 during that game, and it was like, shit, this is like a 3,000 sit down. I was like, it's getting a bit hairy.
Yeah, that's big money, man. There's a certain amount where it's fun, and then there's a certain amount where you start to get nervous, and you're like, well, this is a car payment, or this is,
Yeah,
this is
like
something serious.
I think you can only be good at poker where the money matters but doesn't matter too much. When the money
Yeah.
doesn't matter, you make stupid mistakes,
Okay.
and when it matters too much, you play with fear. You've just got to find a level that's right for you.
Are you trading at all? I think you mentioned a little bit of that early. Do you trade at all, or you don't have time for
No,
it?
no, I haven't traded now. I mean, I've not really traded since 2017. I'm
Okay.
shit at it. I mean, I thought I was good, and
Yeah.
then I wasn't. I made a lot, and then lost a lot. I think like trading is one of those things. It's hard, and you have to be dedicated. And it's stressful. You have to be on it like 24 hours a day, and
Yeah.
I just wasn't very good at it, Cheds. And like,
Yeah.
luckily, the podcast took off, so I still buy Bitcoin. I'm always buying Bitcoin.
Yep.
I'm accumulating it, but no, I don't have the time to trade. I'm not very good at it, and I think it's just not for me. But
Are you just like dollar cost average? You just buy every week, or is it you're trying to buy a dip? How's your approach?
a dollar cost average a small amount, and then what I do is I tend to dive in big on the dips.
Okay.
So when I see a big dip and there's a buying opportunity, I'm like, yeah, I want some of that action.
So where would you want some of that action? Right here? Or you want 30, 20K? What are we talking about?
If it went to 20K, I'd buy the shit out of it.
Yeah.
If it went sub 20K, I'd literally get rid of everything I have,
Yeah.
and I would buy everything I could out of it.
Right.
At 30K, I have bought more. At
Okay.
40K, I'm like, I don't know, because like we're like where are we now? The problem is I don't look every day. Where are we at now? Where are we at? 40, 45, 7, right? Like honestly, from here it could go back to 30 and up to 60.
Yeah.
It looks really undecided. It almost looks like, looking at the chart, it looks like we're kind of like we're in a long accumulation period, and this could go on for another, the year. I don't think we will see 20K Bitcoin. I just don't.
Okay.
I really don't. If we did, like I said, I'd buy the shit out of it.
Mhm.
I think if anything, we're approaching the next leg up.
I like it. What about are you stacking ETH? Any of that stuff, or is it just
No.
kind of BTC?
No, I haven't stacked anything else in a long time. But I do have like an evolving opinion on shit coins. In that, like, I understand it pisses people off a lot, but calling them that. But my show is what Bitcoin did, right? Like it's
Yeah.
a brand. So
Right.
I'm focused on Bitcoin.
Have you considered
like,
a What Shitcoin Did podcast? Kind of a companion.
You know what, dude? If I did that, I'd make more money than I make on the Bitcoin show.
Yeah, you would, yeah.
But I think I think they're different goals. But I think some Bitcoiners can be very hypocritical about these things. For example, there are Bitcoiners who will use stable coins and then shit on ETH, and it's like, hold on a second, like ETH and Solana and Tron. These are things that enable stablecoins. I think you can be critical of some shitcoins, but I think you can also be critical of Bitcoin. And I think that's one of the things. Like, people are upset that I'm critical of shitcoins. Just be aware. I also will be critical of Bitcoin or Bitcoiners. It's like I will criticize them all, but I think I'm coming to this place where I'm like, I don't give a fuck what anyone does now. Like, whatever. Like, I don't like a rug pull. I've been reading about something. Is it Casta?
Yeah. Casta. It's that guy Carl the Moon and a bunch of other folks were,
Yeah, to me that doesn't smell good. That looks ugly.
Yeah.
And I also I think, I mean, I'm just at some point Hex is going to implode to the absolute fucking mess that it is. I don't think people really understand the true Ponzi dynamics that are played there. But whatever, it's cool. I don't have time for it. But I do think, like, fair enough to the ETH guys. Like, ETH has done 2 cycles now. It's survived. You can criticize its infrastructure, whatever. People want to use it, they use it. I don't want to. I won't buy it. But honestly, I'm really over getting in fights and slagging off shitcoins for no. Honestly, I don't care. I wish everyone the best of luck, and I hope people do.
What is that
very
phrase?
well with their trading.
What is that phrase? You're never going to convince someone of something, like, if their job depends on it. There's some,
you're never going to change someone. If their life depends. Yeah, if their job depends on it, you're never going to. Yeah, whatever. Look, it is what it is. I mean, sometimes I think this is another problem in Twitter. There's like a gray area between what is banter and what is like being a twat. Yeah. And I'm British. We're very cutting, and I think sometimes when we're like pissing around with people, it looks like we're being a twat. And but I honestly, I don't really mean anyone harm. Like, I wish everyone the best, and I hope people are successful in their trading with their projects.
I think that's great. I've been reading the chat room a little bit. I think people are find your honesty refreshing, and people have said they really loved kind of seeing this side of you. It's really easy to see someone on Twitter, see some words, maybe a profile picture, and get an image of them. So I think it's great to have these opportunities to kind of just open things up and just human to human and talk.
Yeah, man. These long form conversations are the best thing that I think we can do out there. I think it's the most honest conversation you can. My producer Danny's always said to me, he's been saying for about a year and a half now, get off Twitter. Like, all your troubles come from Twitter. You don't.
Yeah.
You do a podcast. Everyone knows you. You're like a nice guy. You treat everyone with respect. But when you're on Twitter, you come across as an idiot. You're all right before 12 because in the morning it's all British people, so everyone gets the jokes. But he said after 12, when all the Americans come online, they don't really get the nuance and start to lose their shit. So he's like, just get off Twitter. Just do the podcast. And I really appreciate you asking me on because. Like I say, we've been friends for a long time, and it's nice to talk to you, man.
Yeah, well, it's been great. I'm glad you said yes. I've been I thought it'd be fun to kind of switch things up and ask you some questions and not have like a hardcore chart guy, just someone who understands the space a lot better than I do. Certainly in terms of what you do. I guess we'll wrap it up with what are some.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, talk to me.
How are you doing now, man? Are you how's everything? How's your health?
I'm great. I appreciate that. I'm blessed. I almost feel guilty for how well things are going. I'm in great shape. I've been working out. Things are getting warm. I love fishing. That's coming up. I've got my greenhouse. Things are growing. I have my book. Like, I'm about to have book 3, which is like all quotes and other stuff. I'm gonna put that out in like a couple months.
Wicked.
So yeah, I'm excited. Life is really good. My daughter's great. My family's good. So it's really good, and I'm trying to stay motivated with projects. You've got the football team. I've got my book. I've got Twitter, but I'm trying to pull back from Twitter as well. I kind of understand, what you're saying, in that regard. So I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you
asking.
Man.
Well, listen, look. Hopefully, at some point we can have a beer in person.
Hell yeah.
You might have to take the ski mask off, but let's try and do that. It'd be great to actually hang out and eat some food and talk about non-crypto stuff.
100%, folks. Let's wrap this up right here. I'm going to bring back on my screen. That's Peter McCormack of What Bitcoin Did is on YouTube. What are some of the other formats people can get your stuff? Spotify, all the other stuff?
Yeah, Spotify, Apple, Google, it's everywhere. Like, if you search for What Bitcoin Did, you'll find it. And if anyone has any feedback, I always read the emails, always reply to them. It's hello@whatbitcoindid.com. We take all this feedback seriously, and if there's serious criticism, we do discuss it. And we just try and do the best show possible. So yeah, if people want to feedback, please do.
Awesome. Well, I wish you well, man. I thank you for taking your time, brother, and we'll definitely get that beer.
Thank you, brother. You take care. Good health.
All right. Peace out, man. That was super fun. I prepared. I had a bunch of questions. I probably only asked about half of them, because what you like to do is kind of see where the conversation flows. But folks, he's on Twitter, of course, Peter McCormack. I mentioned that. He mentioned him on YouTube as well, and the What Bitcoin Did podcast. Check out all his stuff. I think he's smart. He's interesting, and the guests he brings on make it worth it. So you definitely want to check that out. I'll give you like 2 minutes on Bitcoin. I'll wrap it up. Really just to kind of confirm we're at this key pivot point. Bulls want to see that 46K zone flipped into support. When you take all this time and you really establish a level, rejection, and you break through, you want to see that continuing building momentum. And that's what we want to see going forward. For me, I'm continuing to watch that ETH BTC pair. I think the strength I'm seeing in this makes me a little bit more cautious about the path of Bitcoin. So I'm really looking for a clear and decisive bull break over 48K, or perhaps the channel to break down below 45K. And then I think we start to look at lower support zones. I'm on Twitter, of course. I am at Big Ched's academic observations about price, trading psychology, risk management. The book is on YouTube. The book is on Amazon, rather. Trading Wisdom, 50 lessons every trader should know. The feedback's been unbelievable, and I really appreciate that to each and every one of you. Kindle, audiobook, hardcover, and paperback. I actually have my third book coming out here in a couple months. I hope you folks will consider checking that out. Go to YouTube. If you're new to trading, check out the educational live stream tutorials. I think you'll really enjoy that. That will kind of get you started in some of the basic trading technique. Definitely check out the long form interview series. I'm wrapping this one up here with Peter, Bob, Trader Main, Gareth, Scott, Karush, my man Big Chonas, and of course Crypto Burb. So just a really great group of minds. I'll be thinking about who I want to add and bring on next. And please do let me know your suggestions. The book is available for free as well. The Trading Wisdom book. I'm doing all 50 lessons for free for you. Give me some time. I'll get that whole book out. But the video version is cool. Lets me kind of expand on my thoughts. If you like my technical analysis style and you really want to learn how to trade, check out Bitcoin Live. It's a really serious endeavor. It's something I'm incredibly proud of. I am a founding analyst. You join up, you sign up, you get access to everyone's content, not just mine. That is something I'm incredibly, incredibly proud of. I actually don't have my screen up while I was showing you all that stuff. Check out Bitcoin Live. That's something I'm incredibly proud of. And I mentioned the playlist as well. Go to the book, check out the tutorial, check out my quick market updates as well. I like to dance in the beginning. I like to dance at the end of the show. I just like to dance in general. I think it's nice to kind of set the mood and let you know we're all here just having fun. We're just friends connecting from all around the world. So that's what I'm going to do. Is I'm going to get back to the dancing here, and I'll wish you well. And I'll let you know that I'm going to talk to you folks all soon. All right.